Tonight we're going to be talking about Pyramid Lake in Nevada. This is going to be an awesome one because there are definitely geological features that when you look at them at the right angle, they really look like something like ancient pyramids. In part one, we talked about Devil's Hole and how the water in Devil's Hole in Nevada splashes around when there's earthquakes clear over in Japan. We talked about Walker Lake and the rumored submarine base here, where people have alleged to see submarines going in and out of the water. Then we talked about Lovelock Cave and the legends of the red-haired giants. Now we got to talk about Pyramid Lake, and it's going to get wild because Pyramid Lake is part of an ancient water system called Lake Lahontan. So this is Lake Bonneville in Utah right here. This is all of Lake Lahontan. Look at how much of western Nevada that covers. And then check out California and all of California down there. That was all marshland going all the way to the ocean. So Pyramid Lake has been home to the Paiute people for literally thousands of years. And they even have an amazing creation story related to Pyramid Lake. This rock formation is called the Stone Mother, and it definitely looks like a woman with hair or in a hooded robe, and this is supposed to be her woven basket. The story goes that the first woman of creation came up to this valley. She came up to the north. She actually killed a giant on her way up to the north, and then when she got here, she married and had a husband. Her husband then had children with her, and then her husband took the children and they went across the valley, and then her husband went up into the stars and up into the sky and became like a star being, and sent two of the children to the north, two of the children to the south, and then had two of the children stay to watch over their mother. And the Stone Mother, the legend is that she would sit by the banks of Pyramid Lake, and she would look at night and she would look across the lake to make sure that her children were okay and that their campfires were lit. And as she sat and waited, eventually she noticed that the campfires didn't return and her children didn't come back. But she sat and continued to wait. And as she waited, her sorrow grew so deep that she began to cry, and her tears became all of the water of Pyramid Lake. She's still waiting to this day, looking for her children, which is all of us. And the children that stayed and waited for her are the Paiute people who are still there to this day. And that's her, and that's her basket, and you can still go there and see her. These ancient petroglyphs around Pyramid Lake are 15,000 years old, which makes them 10,000 years older than the pyramids in Egypt. Some of them look like fish bones or plant life. Some of them look like fish scales or big diamond patterns, or they could be like big dragon scales. Again, just look at how much some of these features and early depictions of this lake look like there would have been pyramids here. And the Stone Mother does kind of look like the Sphinx. But some of these petroglyphs that look like big serpent tails or dragon tails are really interesting because that ties into another Paiute legend. The story goes that a Paiute man came up to Pyramid Lake and he fell in love with a mermaid that was in the water at Pyramid Lake. And he tried to marry her, but then when he came back, he realized that she was ugly. And so he decided, he was like, no, you are ugly. I'm not going to come back here anymore. And then she revealed her true form, and she wasn't actually a mermaid. It was instead some kind of a lake monster or big dragon serpent living in Pyramid Lake that was pretending to be a mermaid that had deceived the Paiute man. Also, in ancient times, indigenous people, when they had a pregnancy or a baby born with defects or deformities or premature, oftentimes they would be disposed of or tossed into the lake, which led to the legends that the lake is haunted by what's called water babies. Every year in the spring, it was like a ritual. They would go and dispose of the unwanted children in the lake. And now every year in the spring, somebody drowns in Pyramid Lake. That's not strange enough. Sometimes when people drown in Pyramid Lake, their bodies disappear, and then the body turns up clear down here in Lake Tahoe, and vice versa. When people drown and go missing in Lake Tahoe, somehow their body turns up clear up in Pyramid Lake. Which goes back to our theory at Devil's Hole that makes us wonder, is there some kind of an underground aquifer lava tube system that connects all of these big ancient lake systems all the way across Nevada and possibly all the way out to the ocean? When you look at Pyramid Lake and Lake Tahoe, it is in a straight line on the ancient path that would have connected right here to Monterey Bay, which is where John Lear said in our previous video, where he said submarines could go access in all the way and go underneath California and come up into secret naval bases in Nevada. When I was doing research on Pyramid Lake, this image also popped up. It was a Google image search of Pyramid Lake that showed this strange feature with all of these weird lines. Now, this could just be visual aberrations, like a defect on the lens, because when I went and looked recently, I zoomed all the way in and all over the lake and it looked totally normal to me. And yes, Pyramid Lake also has legends of a giant or a giant ogre. In fact, the Paiute and the Washoe tribe had a special pact or a treaty where they allowed the Washoe tribe to go hunt fish on Pyramid Lake, specifically because they helped the Paiute hunt and get rid of giants that were guarding this lake. Can you imagine just being an ancient Paiute with giants, dragons, mermaids, water babies, all this stuff going on? What a wild time to be alive. But I think the story of the Stone Mother is so beautiful. I love the ancient history. I think these rock formations are so fascinating. Let me know down in the comments below, have you been to Pyramid Lake? And what other strange locations across Nevada and Utah should we talk about next?